Go to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Sessions, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairman McHenry, thank you very much. Chairman Powell, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate not only your professionalism, but your direction at us. Chairman Powell, I know that the Fed considers divergences, and you talked about it as you spoke in your opening statement about consumer price index, personal consumer expenditures, inflation, GDP, and all these things are talked about in your report, monetary report, March 3, 2023. Thank you. A couple days ago, I had an opportunity to see that an economist, Arthur Laffer, produced a report that spoke about literally this country doubling GDP. Now, I know we're putting CPI, PCE, inflation, all these things into a mix. But he said that if we made changes in health care to efficiencies, we could double the current GDP rate. My question to you that I hope you can answer is, what do you think about that? Is that something that is in this document that I have missed? And it's seemingly to a person who follows this, as Art Laffer does for 50 years, what do you think is an important way to look at efficiencies in healthcare? Thank you.
So no, that's not in our monetary policy report. I'll just say one thing, and that is we do spend something like 17 or 18 in that range percent of GDP delivering healthcare. Other similarly wealthy countries spend 10%. So it's the delivery system. It's not that the benefits are incredibly rich or anything like that. It's just that the delivery system is very expensive. That's $1 trillion a year that we spend and get nothing for it. This is fiscal policy, but I'm responding to your. So I would think that he may have meant that if we had a delivery system that saved that $1 trillion that doesn't really get us anything, then that would be great for the economy, which I would agree with.
So you've spoken of supply chain disruptions because it in fact is an inhibitor or an accelerator as we gain that advantage. You just talked about some seemingly which would offer some validation to Mr. Laffer as he spoke about the huge importance of this. Is that something you should start paying attention to where policy people, not only at the Fed, but your Fed banks around the country would start looking at and start putting pressure on us to gain those efficiencies as a result of a global view?
So on supply chains generally, they have suddenly been tremendously important in inflation, as you know, for the last couple of years, and for the first time really have been something that we've had to study carefully. In terms of healthcare delivery, that is strictly a question for you and for the parts of the government that are charged with it. The Fed does not have a role to play and does not seek a role in that.
Does not see a role. And yet, as I look at this, you've got a role in projecting confidence, you've got a role in education, you've got a role in who's in the workplace, you've got a role. Interest rates, and yet my point is it's such a staggering number that impacts us. Just love to have you go back. Perhaps we from this committee need to give you some direction on that. But I think your testimony today, it recognizes the staggering impact on that. I don't think it's political. The answer may be political, but I think the actual numbers are not political. It's an inefficiency that is happening across the country, not a regional matter. And so I wanted to get your take on that, and I appreciate you being here as always. Thank you for your confidence and your hard work that you give this country. Mr. Chairman, I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back. We'll now recognize the ranking member of the Agriculture Committee.